He's a clown. Say it.
I was gonna call him a clown.
A clown, yes.
I'm done.
Yes.
I'm done.
No, it's literally
Like
true.
review over.
So Garnt is obviously like one of the OG anime creators, right? He is the anime zone, you know? He's a legend, a living legend. And he has a podcast where they talk about anime. Always. Every single episode, they talk about anime. He loves anime so much that they made a podcast. Trash Taste always talks about anime. We will listen to the grandfather of AniTube rank all the One Piece arcs, okay? This obviously has manga spoilers, so heads up. Let's hear his takes, and let's judge them. Manga spoilers across the board, I assume. I'm not sure when this was uploaded.
It's an A-tier moment. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. What we're going to be doing today is we are going to be ranking every One Piece arc. Why are we doing this? Because I have just recently caught up to the entirety of One Piece. I'm talking purely from the manga. I've almost completely caught up to the manga. It's hype as f***. Okay? I need to get this off my chest. One Piece is absolutely amazing. I just need to gush for a bit, and this is my way of gushing because I
wonder how many more creators we have on YouTube in general that have also seen and read One Piece, but they just don't talk about it. I wonder how many of them there are. Because Garnt doesn't really talk about One Piece that much, to be fair.
I don't know enough One Piece fans out there. The One Piece fans I do know are just not as caught up as I am. I know you guys exist. I know you guys are out there. But none of my immediate friends that I've seen recently are One Piece fans. Aside from Mahara, I've been in England. This is my way just to talk about One Piece. Because I feel like I haven't had a chance to properly talk about One Piece in detail. I've talked about the fact
I don't think there is a single One Piece video on Garnt's channel. I think so. I don't remember. Maybe like way back? Definitely not recently. Definitely not recently. I think Joey has seen it, right? And then I know Connor is reading it now. So I mean, there's two immediate friends.
I really like One Piece. I've talked about the fact it's like an S-tier manga and anime and shonen. Maybe not anime, actually. Anime is debatable, but definitely manga. But before we move on, I wanted to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Data Live Spirit Pledge HD. Data Live Spirit Pledge HD is an innovative action dating sim. That's right, weebs. You heard right. It's a dating sim. Based on the popular light novel series Data Live that is officially licensed by Kadokawa. That's right, this is a shout out to all the Data Live fans out there right now. Don't tell me you don't exist, I know you do. The 4th season's airing right now. I know you guys are out there somewhere.
I don't know what we're talking about right now. I've literally no clue.
This version is actually a complete remaster of the original Data Live Spirit Pledge, which has been remastered using Unity to give you a much smoother gameplay experience.
I have a confession to make. I have spent an unhealthy amount of time playing Clash of Clans. I am a mobile gamer. I've played a lot of Clash of Clans.
The game offers a combination of high-intensity real-time action gameplay with a fresh take on the romantic visual novel formula by fusing various simulation elements to enhance your immersion in the world of Data Live. That's right, weebs, you no longer need to just roll for your waifus. You can date them too. In the game, you can control or interact with various spirits in battle and story stages and form a strong bond and connection with them. But not only can you interact with all of your favorite girls from Data Live, but there are also a diverse amount of outfits. Some of them are even rare in the anime itself. Not only that, but this game is more challenging and strategic as ever. Different attributes for different characters.
Is this like based off of a series?
The fights more challenging and making you really need to think about the strategy going into them. The remaster's not out just yet, so get out your calendars. It is officially launching on June 9th. So if this sounds like the game for you, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description to give it a go today. Thank you very much again to Data Life Spirit Pledge HD for sponsoring me today. Back to the video. I guess we're just going to go in the order that is given for us. So One Piece arcs go from absolutely amazing peak manga to kind of mediocre-ish. Some arcs are just a bit more of a slog, but I don't believe like any arcs is worth like dropping over or worth like completely skipping.
This is exactly what we talked about with Murphy. One Piece doesn't really have bad arcs. Like, it has some arcs that are sort of, you know, like, you know, it's sort of drag, it's sort of, you know, they may not be your thing. Because that's one thing I've also noticed, and it's actually why I'm watching this in the first place. I've heard so many diverse takes on One Piece arcs that I just want to like hear the rationale of other people. Because for me, I keep saying this, Sabaody, Return to Sabaody, never will be beaten, for reasons which I will talk about in a future video soon, sometime. But for other people, it's like completely different reasons, and I love that. I love that. I don't think there's a bad arc. I don't think so.
Especially since we've gotten to the point where there could be like one piece foreshadowing that Oda put in there that like foreshadowed the shit that's going on now. Luffy could be taking a shit and like 1,000 chapters later, it could be like the Stinky Poo Poo Island arc. I wouldn't put it past Oda to do that.
To be fair, I think a lot of this is not like forward thinking, but it's backward thinking. It's not to take away from the writing, because it still works incredibly well, right? But like going back to what you've written before and using a detail you wrote already, I mean, it's still genius.
I'm going no poo poo.
You know.
I'm a child. I'm an absolute child. And another thing is that I don't know how good my memory is on a lot of these arcs, but let's just get it started. So the first we got Drum Island. Ooh, okay.
We're starting with a big one.
Okay. Even though we're ranking it S to D, I don't believe that D means bad. Is it a
It's not bad.
B or a C? I'll put it in B for now. When I think back to One Piece, and the Drum Island arc in particular, I think back to Chopper's flashback and backstory. There are a lot of lines that stick out to me in One Piece, but one line that has always remained with me
is it going to be Hero Looks?
When the doctor ate the mushroom, and he says, people don't die when they're shot, or when they eat a mushroom, or when they're food poisoned, or whatever. They don't die when they die. Just became a Fate fan for a second. They don't die when they're shot, or they eat a mushroom. They die when they're forgotten. I still remember that line to this day. It's like such a beautiful line, and like the lead up to that moment, absolutely beautiful. The reason it's a B, I believe like a lot of early One Piece arcs suffer from a similar issue. The villain looks so beatable.
I hate Wapol. The only reason why I don't hate Wapol right now is because he got that little, like, he became like a toy dude, right? He like sells toys or whatever. The only reason, this is a very good way to good place to stop the video, by the way. The only reason, like, when I first watched Drum Island, I literally hated Wapol. Like, I could not stand him. He was so annoying. And he was so weak, too. I really didn't like him. But my favorite part of Drum Island, like, in terms of Hero Looks dialogue, is still the, like, I'm not a pirate, but I will live like one if I need to. That is still the one that from One Piece, like, sticks out to me the most. And is also why I think it's the whole Luffy's dream is to turn everyone into a pirate. Because of that single line, right? It's not that they're going to be pirates, but they'll live like pirates.
Apple was like a mid villain. He was designed to be hated, and that he certainly did his job. But also, he was weak as There was never a doubt that Luffy was going to defeat him. Now that I think about it, there's not a lot that really stands.
To be fair, is there any enemy we don't think Luffy will defeat? You know? Wapol's crew was scuffed too? Yes.
Out to me about Drum Island, aside from the flashback and the point where Chopper joins the Straw Hats. Might be a C. I'll put it down for C now. Unless it's a lore-heavy arc, what was the lore that was put into this arc? Because it's hard to categorize One Piece arcs based on...
I still think so. I think a lot of lore from super early One Piece is yet to come into play. I think so, because I always say, when you're writing a story, you know the start and you know the end. You fill in the middle. And I still think a lot of stuff from like way early on, Oda is still cooking. I think he's still cooking.
Like the grander lore.
Kureha, still think she might be immortal.
Because a lot of the grander lore alone didn't make sense until like thousands and thousands of chapters ahead. It's hard to judge it because you would have to judge One Piece.
Also, we heard the people never sleep in Drum Island thing, didn't we? It was like people... Like, certain people don't sleep, or there was, like, a tribe of people who don't sleep, and then we know that Blackbeard doesn't sleep. What you cooking, Oda?
Based on everything in itself. My problem with that is that I barely remember lore details being dropped. There's only, like, a few arcs that are really, really overall lore heavy, and I feel like that mostly plays a part post-time skip, because I think that pre-time skip One Piece, you can judge a lot of these within its own bubble. I think Drum Island works as a fantastic story, as a standalone story. And having said that, also Alabasta as well. Alabasta, S tier for me. Alabasta is...
Well, people keep saying, I'm going to read Alabasta. I will read Alabasta, and then I will revisit my tier list. I'll do that. People keep saying Alabasta is S tier. I don't think so. Alabasta is S tier only when we have the moment of Luffy being like stabbed by Crocky. That's great. Yeah, people in snowy countries don't sleep. That's a thing that was said. I remember that. I think it was like meant to be a joke, but with Oda you never know. Also, I think the stream died.
Like, Alabasta works well as a standalone story and as a One Piece story as well. I've often said this, but if Alabasta was its own anime, you got like an episode or two to like set the scene and set the premise of Alabasta in like a standalone 26 episode seasonal anime, it would be like contender for anime of the year. It was the first time I felt like...
That is a very, very good point. Alabasta, as a story, stands perfectly fine on its own. I never thought about that. Because like it's literally your typical... There is like this corrupt underbelly of the kingdom that we want to get rid of, and we have the true princess that needs to be reinstated. Yeah, I never thought about that.
A villain was truly threatening to Luffy. Crocodile was so much swag. It was the first time where you saw a villain and you're like, oh, this guy is a badass. Holy f***. You go from the villains that were like introduced in East Blue and like the Grand Line before, and you're like who is this guy? Along who? Crocodile was someone who was built up, and he very much met the hype. And another thing that was incredible as well was just Vivi. Vivi was like such
What?
built up, and he very much met the hype. And another thing that was incredible as well.
Hold on.
Was just
That is uncalled for. That is uncalled for. Why? Why do you do this?
Vivi. Vivi was like such a nice addition to not only the Straw Hat crew, but because of how involved she was within the wider Alabasta story arc, it just got me more invested. Seeing her so desperate to stop what happened in Alabasta, seeing her just love her country and trying so hard for it is just... Oh my god. I remember moments.
The only thing, and I think we also talked about this with Murphy's video, the only thing I don't like about Vivi and Alabasta, perfect. Perfect character, perfectly fine, right? We see the whole her fighting with Luffy and everything like that. All that, great. Emotions running high, great. I love it. I love drama. The only thing I didn't like about Vivi that seems very odd in retrospect is like her being a part of the whole organization and her characterization there. That seems odd.
1,000 chapters long. There's a lot of details that you can forget. When I think back to One Piece, right now, I judge it on the moments I remember. And Alabasta is right up there as one of the arcs that I remember the most, because I remember how much I absolutely love Alabasta. Alabasta's final farewell. That will stick with me. Jaya. Okay, this is hard to judge because Jaya is such a short arc, so I feel like it's unfair to judge it based on other arc because it should just be with the Skypiea arc, right? Having said that, I really liked Jaya. Like, if I'm going for enjoyment of Jaya, it would be an A, because that moment with Bellamy, holy man, that is an A tier moment. It's not just Bellamy. It is the Blackbeard speech as well.
The Blackbeard speech, man, like especially in hindsight, it's so good. It's so good. It's because Vivi wasn't originally anything. Oh, his editors convinced him. Yeah, it was the whole, like, he drew her with her hair down, right? And she became a princess.
Major moments in, like, a very, very small arc. And I feel like Jaya was the first time, you know that moment in every shonen anime?
Honestly, probably one of my favorite parts about Jaya is the knock-up stream. That is such a cool thing from a world-building perspective. I love it. It's so unique. And also, Jaya has the beetles. Like Luffy running around with the beetle. He's so good.
Where the villain underestimates the character's power level, or the character's like secretly hiding that power level. I loved how One Piece actually did it. Not with like a power scale reveal, but by bounty levels. Bounty levels is such a unique way to power scale in One Piece. And I love the way that instead of having like an A tier or an...
Should I go on a long rant about... Well, it's not.
Or whatever. Just having a price tag that equates to how much of a threat the government sees you is just such a unique way. A lot of power levels don't make sense because you can literally tier shonen characters and there'll always be that one character who's secretly more powerful than a power level, or that one character who's secretly like a weakling or something, you know what I mean? In One Piece it makes sense because bounties aren't a direct indicator of strength. There's more factors to it than that. It's just a rough indicator of strength though, because if someone has... That's
a part of bounties I really like, right? That it gives you an idea of like how dangerous the person is, but you don't necessarily know what makes them dangerous, right? Like most of the time, yeah, they're just going to be a Giga Chad. But with characters like Robin, obviously she's wanted because, like, you know, of the things she knows. Though I still think they should take that idea further, and I think there are certain characters in the series who should, like, shoot up the bounty ridiculously fast, not because of strength, but because of the stuff they know, right? Luffy being among them, now that, you know.
High bounty. They're powerful. Someone could be of equal level but have a higher bounty, but be more of a threat to the world government. So I think it's like such a unique way to power scale. I will say this, I prefer Jaya more than like Skypiea. Skypiea is like a solid B for me. Jaya set the standard for Skypiea a little bit too high, because I saw the Bellamy punch. I'm like, yes, I'm hyped to go to Skypiea. And Skypiea was good. From what I remember, there was just like a lot of moments that dragged in Skypiea for me. I don't know if the pacing is different from the manga, because everything before Marineford, I watched the anime. I really liked it now. I really liked
I didn't know that. I thought he read the whole thing. I mean, yeah, I've talked about Skypiea before. It's not really the pacing. I think the pacing was fine. I think the problem I have with Skypiea is just that the whole Battle Royale meant nothing. And Eneru turned out to be dumb and kind of useless. It's kind of unfortunate.
the fact that Haki was introduced, but aside from like...
That is really cool. The fact that Mantra turns out to be Haki, and it has a different name because it's obviously a different culture, I love that so much. That is such a nice touch. I keep talking about this, right? How many series are out there when you actually... You have to take language into account, right? This is something I love in series like Game of Thrones, for example, where there are certain like dialects that people do not know. I love when small things like that come into play that you just don't see normally in stories because it's just a hassle to tackle, right? Like, what are you going to do when you have two characters who don't speak the same language? Like, what are you gonna do?
The flashback and like the Golden Bell moment. I don't remember a lot about it. Poneglyphs isn't a moment. Poneglyphs is just lore. I'm trying to judge each arc as much as possible.
And Poneglyphs were revealed already in Alabasta, to be fair. The big Poneglyph in Skypiea was just Roger's message, right?
Within its own bubble. I'm going to be saying this a lot for pre-time skip arcs. I might factor it more during post-time skip arc because that's where you actually get payoff. I'm looking for payoff. That's what I'm looking for. Moving on. Long Ring, Long Land. This is probably my least favorite arc of One Piece. It's pretty easy. The only thing that really...
People are sleeping on Long Ring, Long Land so much. When Davy Jones comes into play, oh boy, will all of you reconsider. Long Ring, Long Land, it's so low in my rankings, it needs to shoot right up. When Davy Jones finally comes into the story, oh boy, will all of you be wrong.
Stands out to
it's
me
gonna
about
be
this
great.
Was when Aokiji was introduced. That scene where he freezes the entire ocean, holy there was no better way to introduce how strong admirals were. Just that one scene. That one scene, it like blew my mind when I first saw it because I'm just like...
Yes, that was me. That was me. The fact that it literally happens because in the anime it was a part of filler arc, right? Because it was Long Ring, Long Land, then there was Foxy's Return, and the second half of Foxy's Return was canon. I believe so. And the fact that we just see this dude, he's lounging around, and then like it seems like we're not gonna fight him, but then we fight him. He literally destroys everyone, like in the space of a few seconds, and leaves. Who does that?
That Luffy has to reach? Aside from that, I don't really remember a lot of it. It's my least favorite arc. Moving on, Water 7, easy S tier. Easy S tier. And while we're at it, Enies Lobby. I guess I gotta start with Water 7. I don't know why this is counted as two different arcs when they're both like the same arc. Before I start talking about this, post Enies Lobby, that's its own arc. I'm gonna treat all this as the same because I don't...
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Though... I do think they are basically in the right order. I do really like Post Enies Lobby because it's a return to Water 7 type of deal. I wish we got to see more of those, honestly. Obviously, another 100 bits. But yeah, with Post Enies Lobby, what I was going to say is, I hope we get to see more of these return to arcs, right? For something like Wano, obviously we spent literal years there, so probably people just don't want to return to it, you know, like right now. But returning to Water 7 was so cool. That was so cool. I love that.
what the difference is between post Ennis Lobby and just Ennis Lobby.
This is like literally
Here's
the
another
same
reason
story,
why I'm
basically.
trying not to factor like a lot of the lore dumps into the individual arcs. Like one of my favorite parts of One Piece, you know that moment after every arc, you get a
Where I know exactly what he's going to say. When we suddenly cut to someone else in the world and something huge is revealed. That's exactly what he's going to say.
flash of what everyone else is doing in the world, and bounties get updated and stuff like that.
That's
That's
so
like
good.
one of my favorite moments in like One Piece. That part I group in with the arc that preceded it. If post Ennis Lobby is just what happens post Ennis Lobby, then this is I just put it in.
Post Ennis Lobby is all the lore, where literally where Shanks and Whitebeard split heaven, like casually. It's where Shanks walks on a ship and like literally everyone around him collapses. It's that. It's and that's where Blackbeard fights Ace. Oh boy.
With Ennis Lobby itself. Water 7 is incredible. This has been by far the biggest conflict we've had between the crewmates. You had Luffy versus Usopp. We all knew the outcome of that battle, but it didn't make it any...
That's the best part. We knew exactly what would happen. We knew exactly how it would play out. But seeing it happen...
less
Oh no.
emotional. There were so many moments that hit me in this arc, and that is one of the moments that really stands out. The thing that shocked me the most about that, it didn't even occur to me that the crew could have a conflict together. Before Water 7, you just always felt that this was like a happy-go-lucky series. It was like a good feeling show, aside from like when they fight a villain or whatever.
That's what I thought. And then we saw which one was the first one? I think the first one was Zoro's flashback, and then we saw Nami's flashback, and then we saw Baratier and Sanji's flashback, and then it was like, oh, so what you're saying is every single flashback will just be pain? That's what I thought too. I thought was like, oh, it's just gonna be a wacky pirate adventure. Yeah, bet.
Was going on in the wider world or in flashbacks, but you felt like the crew was tight. Before the fight, I just remember the tension building up, and it was the point where like Sanji, when he kicked Luffy, I'm just like, I felt bad. I was gonna say like Frankie and Robin's backstory, which at the time I thought it was like one of the saddest backstories in One Piece so far. I don't know if that still holds true. Even after that, you had everything going on with Nico Robin, seeing her character development and seeing her character shift from being this like cold-hearted woman who was always detached from the crew, seeing her properly not only be
Robin's the GOAT. There are no two ways about it. Robin is the best Straw Hat, right alongside Chopper. Best Straw Hats. Best Straw Hats. Also, I don't know if this is a hot take, but now that I've finished the series and I've gotten used to the new Frankie's design, right? The when he has like huge shoulders and whatnot, I prefer the pre-time skip Frankie. I'm gonna be honest.
being accepted, but wanting to be a part of the crew. You saw Robin being one of the Straw Hats in this arc, and seeing that turn was so emotionally gratifying. The I want to live line, holy I need to step back. I need to step back for a second. I'm getting emotional, guys. I'm getting emotional talking about this. I had so many emotions. You got obviously that. You're crying. But before that, Soga King, shoot the flag.
That goddamn song lives rent-free in my head. I hate it so much. Oh my god. From Sniper Island far away. Oh my god, that damn song.
Oh, the hype. Oh my god. And like that walk up to the face-off against the CP9. Chills, man. Chills. Not only that, you had them just declaring war against the world government. We went from like a PogChamp moment to a Bible thump moment within the space of like a few panels. But guys, it doesn't end there. You want more? How about Gear 2nd Luffy? How about Gear 3rd Luffy? In one.
This still boggles my mind, the fact that we went from Gear 2 to Gear 3 and it was like no big deal. Like it just happened. Imagine how long it took for us to see Gear 4.
You know what's incredible? I've said all this. I've fanboyed this much. I don't even know if it is the best arc of all time of One Piece. The fact that Oda can drop this and be like, nah, wait a minute, we've got more coming, just says much, but it's definitely in the top 5.
It's not the best,
Dawn,
definitely top 5.
I feel like it's a C. It sets the stage, yeah, but there's not really much I remember about it. I mean, it just introduces Luffy, it introduces Shanks, introduces Zoro and Nami and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a C. I don't really have much to say about this. Orange Town D tier.
I was going to pause before we saw the next ranking, but I mean, there it is. There it is. I do agree with this though. Buggy's first introduction in hindsight is kind of like, I mean, it's kind of there. It's kind of there. It's a wacky introduction. It's sort of, I think it's very descriptive of One Piece early on, if that makes sense. Buggy is still probably the wackiest villain we've seen. Despite his newfound legend status.
My second least favorite arc after Long Ring Long Land. I just didn't think that Buggy was all that interesting a villain and in the time of Orange Town. He won me over.
The only thing that seems kind of interesting in hindsight there is that he damages the Straw Hat, right? And then Luffy's like, "Oh boy, no you don't." And then he basically one-shots him. That's the end of Buggy.
Over. A lot of you guys are judging this retroactively. Buggy gets to be like a more interesting character later on in the season.
I'm a Buggy stan now, so this is coming from a 100% certified Buggy stan. I still stand by this. Buggy's introduction, kind of mid.
Series, I'm not going to deny that. But at the time of the arc, like when you're first getting into One Piece, he's
a clown.
I was
Say
gonna
it.
call him a clown.
A clown, yes.
I'm done.
Yes.
I'm done.
No, it's literally
Buggy
true.
review over. Buggy reviewer. He's literally a clown.
He is literally a clown.
And in every other sense of the word. I feel this way about a lot of early One Piece arcs, where I don't think they're bad, but especially Orange Town and especially Syrup Village. Those are the arcs that make it like harder for people to get into One Piece. Because
honestly, I don't think so. I think One Piece is very good positioned with Shanks' flashback super early. I think when people see the Shanks flashback and see what One Piece can be, I think the rest is easy. I'm gonna be honest. And I do like Syrup Village more. I still think Klahadore was interesting.
Those are the arcs where
It's like the first villain that was really different,
find elements where I could understand. Like, Buggy was just like an annoying clown. I can understand if new readers are like, I found Usopp really annoying.
Usopp was annoying.
Point of why
I'm glad this isn't just me. I did think Usopp was annoying.
Usopp lies and everything like that. It was like a nice little touch to his character with the backstory and everything, but he was like pretty damn annoying in Syrup.
I think I keep stopping, but I think the thing with Oda's character super early is that they were not in a bad way, but they were very basic. They had their thing, and that was their thing. And that was it. So Usopp was the liar, he was the scaredy cat, and that's it, right? And it's only as we got deeper into his story that we finally saw that subverted, and now Usopp is a god, Early on, yes, he was annoying.
Village.
It's also why I think we literally saw Zoro sleep every single arc, whereas post-time skip, we still see him snooze, but it's not like every single time we see Zoro, the first thing we see is him sleeping, or getting lost.
He's a god now. He is a god. I felt like his backstory was weaker than the backstory of some of the other Straw Hat crews. And I don't think Kuro was a good villain as well. To me, Orange Town and Syrup Village is some of the more forgettable moments.
Is Usopp's backstory the least tragic? I think so. I think Usopp's flashback is the least messed up.
One Piece. And I feel like it's those two arcs in particular that are responsible for maybe putting a lot of people off One Piece to begin with. That meme where One Piece fans are like, it gets better in like 50 episodes. I think a lot of that is to do with just how Orange Town and Syrup Village is. And then we get to Baratie. It's either B or C for me. I'm gonna put it B. Baratie, I think, it was definitely better than Drum Island. A lot of One Piece fans talk about how Arlong is the turning point for when One Piece, gets...
This is why I know exactly what Garnt's gonna say. This is why he is the grandfather of AniTube. Baratie is the first S tier arc in One Piece. Just like I said when I first watched it. Exactly like I said.
Good. But I really think that was Baratie. I think Baratie is when One Piece gets good. Arlong is when you see some amazing moments in One Piece. Like, Arlong is when you see One Piece's
100%.
first amazing moments. But there are still, like, some really, really good moments in Baratie. Obviously, you have Sanji's backstory, and you have Mihawk. Thinking back now, like, Mihawk might even push Baratie into A tier. Like, the Mihawk moment, I think, was the moment that sold me on One Piece.
When I saw Zoro say the whole "I will never lose again, did you hear me, king of the pirates," it still gives me chills. Like, it's so good. It's so good.
Okay, here's how amazing the Mihawk moment was. It sold me on One Piece in the 4Kids dub. You know, a moment must be amazing.
I need to watch the 4Kids dub.
During the 4Kids dub. But I'm going to keep it in B just for now, just in case there are a lot of A tier stuff that I'm forgetting with other arcs. B is for Baratie. Baratie is when
Move it up.
One Piece
Move it up.
gets good. But then Arlong Park is when
Arlong
One
Park
Piece
is when
has
things
its
get
first
real good.
Absolutely killer. If you don't like One Piece after Arlong Park, you probably don't like One Piece, period. Arlong Park
Is that true? Probably. I think if you watch until Arlong Park and you're not digging it, probably, yeah, One Piece isn't for you. Because I think by Arlong Park we've had, like, the spectrum of what One Piece can be mostly covered. It only gets better from there, and it only gets so much more complex. But generally speaking, I think, yeah, Arlong Park is the big turning
A
point.
tier, maybe S
You speak English. Yes, I do.
tier. Probably A tier, just because of like the absolute standard of S tiers. So that actually worked perfectly. You got B for Baratie, A for Arlong Park. The Nami moment, incredible. It was the first moment in One Piece that left me speechless. There are a lot of moments in One Piece that left me speechless, but that moment where she takes the knife and she stabs
that's
the
so
tattoo,
brutal.
stabs the arm, I was just completely silent. You could hear a pin drop.
Yeah, that's what I love. I keep saying this. When anime does the thing of all sound cuts out and you only hear one thing, and with Nami, that was literally just her screaming her. Oh my god, that was so brutal. I love that. Perfect.
You know, Nami wasn't saying anything. That was the moment.
It's also why I keep saying, like, if an anime adaptation is done right, this is very controversial, I know. I am a 3D enjoyer, you know? 3D in the sense that there's more than just black and white paper, you know? You give me sound, you give me movement, you give me proper cinematography, anime will always win out. Like, I'm sorry.
That sold me on just like how good One Piece could get. The only moments that has topped that kind of moment in my mind, the Nico Robin moment. And that's why Ennis...
Is that true? For me, I still, despite Robin being my first or second favorite Straw Hat, for me, I think the Nami moment still hits the most. I think so. Because the Nami moment is just... Is it true, though? I don't know. Because the Nami moment is just like a absolute breaking point, whereas with Robin, at that point, it felt like we had reached... Well, I mean, with both of them, I feel like it is like we've hit rock bottom, and Luffy is there, you know? I don't know. I would still say that Nami's moment hits a teeny bit harder for me, but I don't know. Maybe it's just like nostalgia already speaking. I don't know.
Lobby is in S tier. After that, that was completely followed by one of many epic walks you've seen in One Piece. Like that shot where Luffy gives her the hat, and then you zoom out to just the squad shot. You know squad shots. Like One Piece is the master at squad shots. There is no other anime that gives me the complete goosebumps as
JoJo.
much as One Piece squad shots. Because you know why? They earn it. It's like a short burst on really what One Piece is about. Alabasta is like really...
Robin's situation was more complex, definitely, but I think that's sort of what made Nami's hit a bit harder for me, because it was so, I guess, primal. I really don't have the words to describe it. I think that sort of speaks to just how well the moment is written, when I'm just like trying to put into words what even was it about. I don't know. I would have to think long and hard about that.
Long?
I thought about doing like a video ranking the Straw Hat flashbacks.
Arlong Park has like a
I think that would just be sad.
pretty short burst of like emotional moments. It has hype moments, and it's a lot shorter than some of the longer, more epic arcs. And I remember showing Arlong Park to Sydney, and I was like, "This is why I like One Piece." And she cried, she got hype, she got everything, and she's like, "Okay, I get it now. I get it." Moving on to Logtown. Logtown, I also think is
My favorite thing about watching these videos is hearing how people pronounce the arcs, because it's like I say Baratier, right? Because I think it's like, you know, your typical French restaurant and stuff like that. You would have the E be prolonged, so it's Baratier. I think Garnt said Barati, right? And then I've heard people call it other things. And with Logtown, I think you just said Logtown, right? That's my favorite part.
I've really enjoyed Lowtown because it didn't have any like epic super hype moments, but it had like, I just enjoyed the arc, period. Not because of any major plot developments, a lot of little
Logtown was great.
You had Zoro like throwing up the sword.
I keep forgetting about this. Yeah, this happened in Logtown. This was great.
And seeing if his arm would be cut. I love that moment. That was like a badass moment. Tashigi and her.
I think this is I know maybe this is an old arc, as Garnt said. It's been a while. I would like to correct him. This is Kuina.
Interaction with Zoro. The clown was back. Buggy was back. And he was more likable than he was in Orange Town, at least. Dragon first came as well. That was like an epic moment. You had Luffy redoing what Gold Rogers did, basically on the stand. There wasn't like a single moment where I'm just like, yes, peak One Piece. But there was a lot of moments where I'm just like, every episode about this.
I still really hope, and this is something I've been thinking about, right? I really like that in Logtown we had the dude pretend to be Luffy, right? I mean, nowadays, yeah, Luffy is so infamous that I feel like everyone sort of has a pretty good idea of what he looks like. But I would love to see the concept explored further, right? Where we literally miss a... I mean, it was also explored with Sanji, right? The whole wanted poster actually being Duval. That's a pretty cool way of doing it. But I would like to see these more sort of absence of information type of deal where we don't have an exact photo of them, right? And this sort of stuff happens. And another thing I've been thinking about is why don't we see bounty hunters in the series? That's something I've been thinking about a lot. Like, where's all the bounty hunters?
This is enjoyable. It is...
Zoro's gonna backstab Luffy at the end.
A strong B for me. And you had Smoker being introduced as well. Because,
Smoker's the goat.
Wrongfully tried to accuse me of, Smoker was introduced in Logtown. And Smoker, what a badass. Reverse Island. I'm gonna put that C. I don't really remember much about Reverse Island. Laboon was just... It was an okay. It was an okay story. The most interesting thing about Reverse Mountain for me was just learning about the Grand Line. Learning about how the Grand Line works, because, you know, the Grand Line was like built up as the Giga Chad of seas.
It was. That is why I thought we would never reach it. That's why I thought it would just be a thing we never reach. And then we reached it. It still boggles my mind.
Like Reverse Mountain. That scene where they share their dreams.
Okay, this was also badass, but the scene of them flying over. What the hell is Luffy? Oh my god. Anyway, the scene of them like shooting over the mountain and then the water going up. Oh, that's so good.
Put their legs on the keg and they toast to it. They're going off to the Grand Line. That was like the most interesting part for me. And seeing how complicated it was to navigate the Grand Line. You know, that all of that was interesting to me. It feels more like a transition arc rather than a full-on arc itself. So that's why it goes to C. Then we have Whiskey Peak. You know what? I'm gonna do something crazy, guys. I'm gonna do something crazy. I'm gonna put it in B. We're going...
Hold up. Hold up. Wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. What? Okay, let's hear this.
By enjoyment, right? I enjoyed Whiskey Peak as much as Lowtown.
Why?
Do you know why? We got to see Zoro be a Chad, and that was just so fun to watch. Seeing...
Okay, I forgot about this. There is the scene of him being like... He basically is the only one who doesn't fall asleep, right? And then, yeah, he takes on all of them. Okay, fair enough. It still doesn't make it good, though.
Zoro take on like the 100 assassins or whatever. That was so much fun. It doesn't mean much in the wider world of things. Zoro taking on Baroque Works was just really fun. I think one of my favorite scenes with Zoro, when he was like fighting the 100 people, he faces off against Miss Monday. I'm like, oh, a challenger has appeared. Cuts to the next shot. Zoro just like got a...
Don't remember this. Okay, fine. But that is just one good Zoro moment. Zoro has like a million good moments. Is Thriller Bar gonna be the best star?
Face in her fist, and she's like screaming in pain. I'm like, what a chat. It was just fun. I don't know. It was just fun. Moving on to Little Garden. Little Garden.
I don't agree with this, but let's keep going.
Went on for a bit too long, in my opinion. It's a C for me. I don't know if my opinion would change if I read the manga. I just felt like it was a bit Whiskey Peak was kind of like a throwaway island for the first Grand Line. That was like a very short arc. Little Garden, was it the first big island? Because it was before. Yeah, it was before.
One thing I think I really enjoyed about Whiskey Peak is the subversion of the whole celebration of us entering into the Grand Line, right? The fact that we entered Whiskey Peak and we saw the party that turned out to be not a party, I feel like that is very indicative of like what to expect from the Grand Line, right? I think that was really neat. Little Garden, though, I like Little Garden. I've talked about it before. I like the fact that we have smart giants, not stupid giants. And I really, really like Bragi and Dory. Them clashing, not even remembering why they're doing it. I like the Usopp stuff. It's great.
It was before Drum Island.
It's great.
Yeah, and it just didn't meet my expectations, I guess. Looking back, I'm like, how the
Except that guy.
did they have such a hard time with Mr. 3? The Giants were the thing that I liked the most out of Little Garden. Like, I loved their backstory. I loved them as characters. So, we get to Thriller Bark. This one's hard. Here's how I see Thriller Bark. Thriller Bark is a C tier arc with A to S tier moments in it.
Yeah, I think so. I would agree with that. Thriller Bark has so much potential, and it has so many great moments, but it's not S or A.
That's how I see Thriller Bark. So do I just like take an average and go B tier, or do I judge it on the moment?
If Thriller Bark is above Drum Island, I will actually cry.
Moments that define it. I'm gonna go on the moments that define it. Some of the
No.
best moments in One Piece have been in Thriller Bark. It's not all bad, but I don't think that Thriller Bark even got like remotely interesting until they started fighting, was it Oars? There was like one moment that stood out.
Oars is still one of my favorite fights in all of One Piece. Easy. Again, I keep saying this, the fact that we got a raid boss type fight where everybody fought him, we need another fight like that. I realistically don't know how that would happen anymore, because like the power levels of the crew are all over the place. I love Oars though. I loved him. Except Shadow Luffy. Shadow Luffy was one of the weirdest things Oda's ever written in. I didn't like that.
Before the Oars fight, and that was Luffy putting the zombie back down. Aside from that, before the Oars fight, there wasn't really anything about the arc that stood out to me. I thought Gecko Moria was really disappointing as a Shishibukai. It was a slog to get through a lot of this arc. Having said that, obviously the Zoro moment. As you can see with Whiskey Peak,
There is no Zoro moment. Nothing happened.
I am a Zoro simp. My God. Like, to me, that Zoro moment with Kuma and just the nothing at all, that, to me, like, shot Zoro up as my favorite One Piece crewmate. If Zoro needed to stamp his authority on just absolutely how much of a Giga Chad he is, that was the moment that did it. It not only showed how badass he is, but it also showed how loyal he is and why he...
This is why we like Garnt. You see, he has 100% correct takes. Zoro's the GOAT.
Deserves to be Luffy's right-hand man. Everyone in the Straw Hat crew is loyal. Zoro proves it on a level that hasn't been shown by the other crewmates.
Precisely.
It's absolute chills. It is peak One Piece, and I think that is why I'm going to keep it at A tier, even though, like I said, I think overall, Thriller Bark is just like a C tier arc. But because like the high points of Thriller Bark just make me forget about how much of a slog other points in the arc it was as well. Brook's backstory, it hit me. But I think Zoro's moment just tops any.
Brook's backstory, when we hear them count down how many people are still playing, Oda chose violence.
Anything in that arc, and tops moments even in some S tier arcs for me. Moving on to Shabadi, I would put this at like a high A tier, low S tier. To me, Shabadi,
let's hear him.
He is like leveled up Jaya. Shabadi and Jaya hold a lot in common where it feels like, you know, it feels like a transition arc to something bigger. It's very short. They spend very little time in that arc, but it's just Jaya, but like with more amazing moments. No, it's S tier. It's S tier. I'm kind of remembering.
Not only is it S tier, it is the best S tier. Zoro, the King of Hell, in the last episode might be the top Zoro moment now. My guy, the fact that Zoro, like, I memed about this, right? And obviously, I don't want people to get, like, you know, too crazy about this or whatever, right? But, you know, the fact that we see with Sanji, he's like, oh, Luffy, do you want to see the flesh and blood mate? Or do you want to see the cold warrior of science? Like, which one do you want? Right? And it's this whole introspective thing. He remembers Zeph, he remembers where he came from. It's this very complex thing. With Zoro, my guy's like, yes, my king, I will become the king of hell. And it's literally as simple as that. I love it. I love Zoro. Zoro is the best.
The moments in Shabadi, it's not only short, but it has S tier moments in it. Like Jaya, Luffy punches a guy. As hype as the Bellamy punch was, the Shabby punch.
This punch is the best punch in the entire series. It's not even close.
Up that by 10. Like, holy f***. It was the hypeness of just the worst generation being introduced. You got Kizaru just absolutely flexing on the Straw Hats. You have Rayleigh being introduced. I'm like, now that I'm saying everything, holy this is an S tier arc. I'm just thinking back to just the amount of stuff happening in this arc. Like, you meet Rayleigh, obviously Roger's right-hand man. At the moment that people don't really talk about, there are so many moments amazing.
Know exactly what, again, I know exactly what he's gonna say. He's gonna talk about the fact that Luffy didn't want to learn about the One Piece. Also, what is going on with Nami's head?
Moments in this arc is the moment where he starts reminiscing about obviously everything that happened. There's two moments in his speech that really stood out to me. One was the day that Roger got executed, and he said that he'd never laughed more than he did in his life, and he'd never cried any more than he did in his life. That hit me. My God, that line hit me so much. And then right afterwards, when he's about to spoil the end of One Piece, and Luffy is just like,
stops him.
Yo, bro, spoiler tags, bro. Shut the f up. I don't even want to know. Get the spoilers out of here. Luffy's a better man than me. I'm right here spoiling all of.
I'd be right there. I'd be like, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna listen. Maybe I'll interrupt you, but keep speaking.
One Piece right now to you guys, and Luffy's like, no spoilers. I don't want any of that shit. Let me experience it for myself. The thing about Luffy is that he doesn't really get like character development in terms of you are seeing parts of Luffy that you didn't know exist anymore. There are very, very few points in One Piece that have done that, but there are plenty of points that remind you what kind of a person Luffy is, and that's one of those moments. Having just said,
I think that's the best part of both Luffy and Zoro. Fundamentally, they're not very complex characters, but they work so well. And again, I keep mentioning it, but like, JoJo in that sense is perfect. A lot of JoJo characters are very simple, and that is why they're great. You literally know what they'll do, and it's still excellent every single time they do it. It's like, he did the thing, It's like Luffy says, I'm going to be king of the pirates, all of us still lose our minds,
that there was one moment where we did see a new side of Luffy within this very arc.
When he's crushed.
That was Luffy's breakdown when everyone got transported away. This arc is so stacked, and I completely forgot how stacked it was until I'm just like reminiscing about it right now. Shabby is like so clearly S tier. It ain't even like an argument. Okay, next. Amazon Lily, D tier. It was okay. I don't think there was any major developments that stuck out to me about Amazon Lily. Hancock was the best part of this arc. Impelled Down. This is
not much to say there, I guess. I mean, Amazon Lily, what did it really do? It was important for hockey. It was important for turning the story. Maybe for something else, but we'll better leave that for another day. Maybe there's someone who wants to talk about that very soon. Maybe even, who knows? Yeah, I think that's fair, though. I think that's fair.
Is an easy A tier. Impelled Down, I feel, gets overshadowed by how amazing
Marineford
is.
1,000,000%. I thought about this myself very recently for unspecified reasons, which you might find out this Sunday. Impelled Down has so many great moments that I just completely forgot because I was so enthralled in the Marineford story, right? I just wanted to rush toward the end, basically. Just like Luffy, right? I was just running through the entire thing, and I wanted to know what lies at the end. But when you look back at, like, Impelled Down in isolation, man, it's excellent. It's so good.
I think Impelled Down...
It really doesn't have a slow moment.
...is the first time that we see someone reappear. We see a major character reappear. I don't...
Not only does someone reappear, everybody reappears.
Really have anything bad to say about Impelled Down. My biggest criticism to Impelled Down is that I just think it was just a slight level below what I'm putting at S tier. Obviously had Bon Clay Summer. How would you make me care about that character? I remember when Bon Clay was introduced, I'm like, how do you cross a ballerina and a clown together and make me care about that? Impelled Down, to me, is the highest A tier there is, because I think a lot of that is just overshadowed by how amazing Marineford was. Like, Impelled Down, it had an amazing moment, but it felt like setup to Marineford. Marineford is easy S tier. It is up there in contender for the best. One Piece arc of all time. I like Enies Lobby and everything about Enies Lobby. Marineford, it's the only time in One Piece where from beginning to end, every single chapter was hype. Every single chapter was like a 9 or 10 out of 10. I think part of that is because unlike a lot of other arcs, this
Marineford is just the ultimate convergence point of everything. Like literally everything we knew up until then converges in Marineford. And that is just what makes it explosive in every sense of the word. It is excellent.
one cannot stand on its own. This one isn't like a self-contained arc. Marineford was...
Exactly. Marineford by itself literally means nothing. It only means something because of everything that led us there, right? Which seems like an obvious thing, but you know what I mean. Like Alabasta, if you dropped us in the middle of Alabasta, you could tell a story there. With Marineford, you literally couldn't. It's everything that happened before that makes it so incredible. I love it.
The build of all of One Piece so far. On top of every single chapter being like a 10 out of 10. Because, you know, you look at Wano, you look at Enies Lobby, you look at all of the other S tiers. You need the setup to get the banger moments, to get like that 20 chapter stint when everything was a 10 out of 10. Marineford had that. Its setup arc was Impel Down. I think Marineford is my favorite One Piece arc of all time. Because on top of every chapter being a 10 out of 10 banger, you had arguably the biggest plot twist in One Piece so far. Oda had waited that long to kill off
500 chapters or something.
I'm not talking about killing off a character in a flashback or anything. He waited 500 chapters to actually kill off a character. And he didn't just kill off one, he killed off two. He waited 500 chapters to make a death stick and mean something. And holy...
I think I said this in Murphy's video as well, but the fact that we save Ace and he dies then, after talking to Whitebeard, after doing his whole we'll get out both of us, it'll be great. Oh no.
Everyone talks about the big developments, but one of my favorite things about the Marineford arc that doesn't really get...
I'm gonna interrupt Garnt again. The only thing that I hate about Marineford now is the fact that Whitebeard announcing that the One Piece is real became a meme. I'm sorry, memes should not be created out of such legendary moments. I'm a zoomer, but let's not meme perfection, okay?
Talked about, it was just one line. It was just this one line from Whitebeard. You had like his crew for some reason referring to him as a father. I remember like reading that and I'm just like, well, I guess every One Piece crew needs that like quirk, right? I guess they all need that quirk. And then just reading that line and then just building up to the moment where you see just a short flashback of him in his younger days and just him ignoring the treasure and saying that all he
just wants
is
a family.
Yeah. I expected something big to happen.
Family. I still regret that I didn't put a maybe I did a Fast and Furious meme in there
with like other developments, but that line it just like sucker punched me, man. Because I just wasn't expecting that line to come out then. Because I was just like, this is done. I'm already like emotionally invested. It just brought everything full circle and just tied everything together about their crew in the most beautiful way. And it was like, it was such a One Piece moment. Moving on, post-war, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, Marineford is excellent. There's really not much else to say about it. It is the convergence of everything we'd seen thus far. It not only marks the, like, whole start of a new generation with literally Whitebeard, a man we saw clash with Shanks, and Split Heaven die, and then we have Luffy's brother dying. It's perfect. And then we have Luffy on his own now. It's so good. It's so good.
Isn't this just like part of Marineford? I guess I'll put this in A then. Like I said before, some of my favorite moments in One Piece comes after the big arc. And post Marineford arc was probably like my favorite post.
I still think, maybe Garnt's going to talk about this as well, but I still think putting Luffy's flashback after the war to like, so that we sort of dive right into his psyche and why Ace means so much to him, right? Where they literally grew up and they weren't actually brothers and all that. That was so good. That was so good. And that was such a One Piece thing, right? Where they're like, none of them were really related, but it's so good. So good.
Arc. One Piece arc that is out there. Is that a sentence that makes sense? Am I making sense? And you obviously get Luffy's backstory a bit more as well. Yeah, that's a high A. Return to Sabaody.
An arc that could never happen in any other anime. I will talk about it soon.
And that's just a B, right? This is just the...
Look, Garnt has had some very good takes, but he also thinks all bread tastes the same. So we're gonna disagree on this one, respectfully.
You see the crew flex their new powers. It's a nice little flex arc. It's enjoyable. It's a B tier. Fishman Island.
Oh, it's not.
So originally I was going to put this as a C, but like I'm thinking back and I think it might deserve a B. The biggest
Fishman Island is
problem
great.
Fishman Island had initially was that it was just coming from the hype of Marineford. I remember
This is the only reason why I think most people really, really dislike it. It's because we wanted to see the crew, and instead we saw Hody. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I think if Fishman Island took place later on, people would have enjoyed it a lot more. Because I love Fishman Island. Thematically, Fishman Island is one of the strongest arcs for me. Return to Sabaody, though, should be S tier. Let's get that clear. Like, literally, the crew reuniting after 2 years, after everything they've been through, seeing them reunite, now all much more mature, and then seeing all their allies, once enemies, by the way. Oh, it's so good. Return to Sabaody, I'll talk about it.
being sorely, not disappointed, but just sorely underwhelmed by Fishman Island. Marineford had just happened, post-war just happened, and you were just like, holy One Piece has peaked. How are they gonna top this? What is Oda got coming next? And then they hit you with the Fishman Island. Oda is still mortal. It is absolutely impossible to come off the
Fishman Island with Arlong as an antagonist again would have been S tier? I don't think so, because then it would have just been the same arc. I think Fishman Island with Hody and the sort of thematic stuff, right? With him being just this hollow creature of a being, and just like with these hollow beliefs that mean nothing. It was like the most mature One Piece had ever gotten at that point. So thematically, I think Fishman Island was perfect. I think its placement was the big problem, and the fact that we never saw whatchamacallit, we never saw the crew really fight together that much. That's the biggest problem for with Fishman Island for me. Thematically, easy S tier for me. I didn't like the energy steroids thing. I think the energy steroids was literally just a crutch for Hody to make him a proper antagonist, and that's it. And that's what I keep saying, right? Like thematically, the arc was perfect. The execution of it was flawed, which is why it's also relatively low in my tier list. The fact that like we have moments in it, right? Like why did you do this? And then actually no, I think Hody's asked, what did humans ever do to you? And he just says nothing. I love that moment so much. It's so good. It's so good. Oh boy. It's like one of the best depictions of like this racism of these hollow beliefs that mean literally nothing, and he's just this hateful thing. Perfect. I love it. Perfect.
Type of Marineford. So I think because of that, a lot of people have like worse memories of Fishman than it actually was. But thinking back about how many things happened in it, post timeskip One Piece is when I actually started to care about the lore of the wider world. So you talked about lore drops in like Alabasta and, you know, Skypiea and all that shit. I didn't give a shit about that. I didn't give a shit about it because it didn't come into fruition until like post
600 chapters.
Timeskip One Piece. This is where you kind of started to see the payoff of like the wider lore and the wider world of the One Piece universe as a whole, as opposed to just judging arcs by their individual merits. It's become a lot harder post Timeskip to judge arcs by their...
That's the thing, and this is something I only really noticed recently, right? With Marineford, we had that stretch of arcs where literally everything was building up to Marineford. But as soon as we enter the post-timeskip stuff, every single arc like leads right into the other one, right? And this is why people post-Wano were so excited, because we literally didn't know where we were going. We met Law, and that then takes us right to Dressrosa, and then obviously we have the Sanji stuff, so we go to Whole Cake Island, and then we have Reverie, which is like not connected to us, right? Everything after that literally just happens because of the stuff that happens on these islands, right? Whereas pre-timeskip everything was just independent.
Individual
I'm curious to see how actually that plays out in the final saga as well.
merits, because a lot of the payoff has come from the wider lore. Yeah, it's a B. It's a B. Punk Hazard.
It's a weak one
It's
for
a C
me.
for me. It's a C. No, it's a B. I forgot about Law's moment. If it
Law's moment breaking the gear, best moment of the arc probably, not even close. The fact that it's above Drum Island literally breaks my heart. Like, what are we doing here?
wasn't for Law's hype-ass moments, it would be a C. Completely stamping out the new era has started. This is this is the time for the younger generation right now. Aside from that moment, I don't really remember much about
Garnt, move it down.
Punk Hazard. There was things about, you know, like the smile thing, and you had like the oversized children and all that, and that was like sad and all.
Oh my god, I remember watching it in the anime, and I saw like 13 episodes. I'm probably exaggerating, but like literally seeing the kids run down the same gray hallway, it was so boring. It was so boring.
But I don't know, compared to like some of the other One Piece stories, they didn't really hit me as hard. Dressrosa. A. It's A.
Dressrosa?
I said that Impel Down was the highest you can possibly get before S, but I think Dressrosa is a tier below Alabasta, Water 7, Ennis Lobby, Shabody, and Marineford. I think it is a tier below. Dressrosa was the fourth Ninja War arc of One Piece. You know what I
don't know
mean?
what that is.
Where
I don't know what that is.
really good moments in it, but a lot of slow moments in it as well, where it's really, really long. Doflamingo, to me, one of the most interesting villains in One Piece.
100%.
Even before Dressrosa happened, there was like...
He was an absolute enigma before we learned about him. The fact that we saw like him, now in hindsight, it seems obvious, right? He was always the puppet master, and then we saw it was Bellamy fighting someone else. I don't remember who it was, but they were like strung along, right? And he could control them. And then we literally see him fly. And in retrospect, all of that makes perfect sense. But the fact that he literally turns out to be the puppet master in a city full of puppets, thematically, perfect. I still hate the birdcage. I hate the birdcage with every fiber of my being. It is dumb, it makes no sense, and I don't like it. I do not like it. Everything else about Dressrosa, so good. Sabo returning, and while I'm usually not a fan of the memory loss trope, I think the Sabo one was generally done pretty well, especially because all of us knew he was perfectly fine. And then him getting Ace's fruit, perfect. Perfect.
Like, so much build-up. Not even, like, one of the most interesting villains. I think he's one of the most interesting characters in One Piece. What a great villain. The moment that sold me on Doflamingo was even, like, is way before Dressrosa. It was, like, all the way back in Marineford, where he's just like, whoever wins this
whoever wins, yeah, exactly.
war will be justice. And I'm just like, man, this
So
guy
good.
gets it. He sees the world in a way.
The replacement Ace still bothers me a little. Yes, I do think that Sabo just literally filling Ace's role is a bit of a cop-out. Yes, yes. And the fact that they now literally have the same fruit, they're a Luffy brother, they're largely the same thing, right? Ace was affiliated with Whitebeard, an incredibly powerful pirate. Sabo was affiliated with Dragon, an incredibly powerful revolutionary, right? Largely, they do the same thing, but you know, I like the premise of it.
No other character sees it, you know. He's such a good villain. He's so interesting.
The anime did Dressrosa bad. Oh, trust me, I know.
I'm kind of sad that he got beat down, man, because I want to see more of Doflamingo.
He's gonna break out. We are 1,000,000% going to see Impel Down again, and he's going to get out. 1,000,000%.
It's really good. There is a lot of good moments in Dressrosa.
Do you think Sabo was planned from the start? I would say I am 80% convinced that no, 20% that yes. I think there are some clues there to sort of guess that he might have been planned, but 80% of I'm 80% of the way there that no, he wasn't planned. I think he was just added in a very fitting place, is my understanding. Ace tattoo, yeah, people like say that it's like the whole S is crossed out Sabo and then like Crybaby and stuff like that, but much of that really it doesn't really make sense in my mind, especially like with Oda is a Japanese guy, and then we translate it to Crybaby, and a bunch of this stuff. I think you can explain it away, but I'm not totally convinced, you know?
It is A tier. There are some S tier moments. Obviously, you got Luffy, Gear 4. It was a bit goofy. Obviously, Gear 4 was hype.
Also, crossing out your dead brother is kind of messed up, don't you think? Kind of messed up.
Because it was OP. I guess it just, like, the initial impact wasn't as much as Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd. Oh, the Sabo reveal as well? I forgot about that. Like I said, there's a lot to talk about Dressrosa. That wasn't my...
Gear 4... Okay, let me do this real quick. Let me rank the gears. Spoilers for Wano. Gear 5, best one. Gear 2nd, second best one. Gear 4th, third best one. But I'm talking about Gear 3rd, all of them, right? Because I like Snake Man a lot more than Bounce Man, or whatever it's called. And then my least favorite one is Gear Third because it's literally just like a big hand. It's kind of boring, you know. That's how I would rank the gears.
My problem with Dressrosa. My problem with Dressrosa, it just felt very long. Zao? Is it Zao or Zo? I'm gonna put it at B. Zao felt like it was a setup arc. It felt similar to something like Impel Down, just without as many amazing moments. I think like it was a very interesting concept to have an island on an animal. I thought that was like interesting as hell. It was a setup arc, but it just didn't have as many standout moments for me as some of the other setup arcs that are in
Raizo is safe. I saw it in the chat. I saw the word safe in chat. No. Surely Garnt's gonna talk about it.
Cake Island. This is hard.
I think he won't. Zo should definitely be higher. Raizo is safe. Learning about all the poneglyphs and literally seeing the end of One Piece in sight. So good. Then we have the moment of like the crew reacting to Raizo being safe and it's just like, oh, it's so good, so good. Also, Robin's jokes about them dying and all her morbid jokes creeping in here. Perfect. Then we got the ugly drawing. I don't remember what it was called. But like the horrible drawing that fades away and then we see it in the clouds. Zo is perfect. Zo is beautiful. Zo has the best tree in One Piece. Like, is there even anything else to say? Zo is an excellent arc. Excellent.
Right on the cusp. I'm gonna put it as low as S tier. There was so much of Whole Cake that I really enjoyed, especially Sanji's backstory. I made the assumption. Dumb gun. Why would you make assumptions about One Piece and how affected it could be? There is no character development left for the Straw Hat crew. Everything's been done. And then Oda hits you with this.
So wait, hold on. Is Garnt like ranking did he say lowest S tier? So I guess he means it goes this way, I suppose. I don't think he's really been paying attention to it. I think I put Whole Cake, S tier, and Mai as well, because I was sort of taken away by the sheer emotional capacity of it. Because, like, the emotion bombs in Whole Cake are perfect. It's excellent. It's just so good. We have the Sanji stuff. We have, whatchamacallit, we have Pedro. That was his name, right? Yeah. We have Brooke soloing Big Mom. Oh my god, there was so much good stuff, and then we have Luffy screaming out that he will starve without him. It's so good. But at the same time, we have the forest sequence at the start, where we have Cracker, and literally, the fact that he is defeated, and he comes back to life, and Luffy eats him, and he comes back to life, and then Luffy beats him, and then he comes back to life, and then Luffy eats him, and he comes back to life. Oh my god, can we stop it? I really loved the forest where we're sort of trapped and we could like sort of not escape. I think that was really cool, but I didn't like the conclusion of it, I guess, if that makes sense. And the ending of the arc, we obviously saw the best part about the ending is easily Jinbei surfing with the ship and then him staying behind and Luffy saying, I will wait for you in the land of Wano. That, perfect. It's not perfect. It's Wedding Ukeiku. If I hear that one more time, I will actually lose my mind. And if I hear Mama Mama one more time, I will also lose my mind. The chase was way too long, and no one cares. No one. And the fact that we saw Big Mom just keep powering up and up and up and up, and by the end she's literally like a giant flaming thing. No. I don't like the escape sequence at all. Like, really. I really don't. So, the middle of Whole Cake, perfection. The start and end, not great. I would probably put it A now. That's what I think.
Sanji character development. I'm just like, what? Damn, okay. His character development is probably my favorite character development in all of the One Piece crew members right now, maybe only rivaled by Nika Robin's character development in Enies Lobby. We saw a side of Sanji that we just hadn't seen before.
I think with Sanji, a lot of people say that, right? Oh, right, in the Katakuri fight. The Katakuri fight was, albeit it was detached from literally everything, right? Which is one part I really don't like about it. The fact that it's literally like, hey, what we're going to do now is put Luffy in a cage, and this is where we will, this is where he will level up with his observation hockey. And this is where he will basically have a power check, you know, just a vibe check real quick. That I don't like. Rest of the fight was excellent. Katakuri, an awesome baddie. What was I saying before that, though? Oh, with Sanji. I feel like a lot of people say that he has the best backstory simply because he has the most backstory. It's as simple as that, I feel like. Characters like Zoro, we've literally gotten only a handful of episodes of his backstory, and it's just about Kuina, right? And same goes for everyone else on the crew. Sanji has gotten 2. So he got his origin story with Zeph, and he got his entire story even before that, you know? So I think he literally just has more story. Luffy's probably the only one to contest him on that.
Katakuri fights, probably my second favorite Luffy fight. It was just hype. It was just hype. Having said that, it's a low S tier, high A tier. Reverie. I feel like Reverie, it's an enigma. It's a hype arc, not hype because of any moments. It's hype because of lore. Here's how I view it, okay? Remember before when I said my favorite moments in One Piece was the post arc, the arc where we
Reverie is like a bet.
See what everyone else is doing, and you get hyped over lore, you get hyped over bounties being updated. Reverie is that on crack. It's like the biggest fan service, not fan service arc in One Piece. And when I say fan service, not fan service, I don't mean like haha booby and all that. You get fan service because
it's literally like everyone we've met so far. Here's this. Here is another Celestial Dragon conflict. Someone is like, there's a king of the world. There's a big straw hat. It's just like literally 500 million clues that we know nothing about, you know?
Just hype just to see all of these.
Not so much an enigma now. Well, to be fair, we still don't know about half of what was actually going on there, right?
Characters that you've seen in previous arcs just come back to one place just to like interact with each other.
I still remember I thought that somehow the Straw Hats would end up at the Reverie and we would meet up with literally everyone. I'm so sad that didn't happen.
It was so hype just to see. Reverie was like the biggest lore dump we've had over the One Piece universe, and that itself was hype. For enjoyment, I'll rank it in A tier. Moving on. Now, Wano is the only arc out of these all that haven't finished yet. S tier.
Oh.
S tier. Can you even argue that Wano is not an S tier? The only argument I would accept about Wano is that it might not be the greatest One Piece arc of all time. That's the only argument I would accept about Wano.
I think Wano doesn't have enough Straw Hat time is one of my things with Wano. I feel like there was so much going on. We don't really focus on the Straw Hats. We only really focus on like a handful of them. Also, I think the raid is a bit too long. Also, I think the result of the raid is sort of just like with Eneru to an extent. It sort of feels not dangerous enough, right? Like we have just a couple of characters die out of the blue, and it was supposed to be our biggest war against an emperor, right? Like, if you think back to Marineford, just how much fighting we saw and everything like that, Wano in that sense feels more like a one-on-one, not like an all-out war, which it literally was, you know? Yeah, Wano is an odd one. I still think about it a lot, because I put Wano very, very high, you know? I'm still of mixed minds about. People got very mad at me for saying that Luffy Gear 5 wasn't entirely, you know, it was kind of retcon, you know, but I don't know. Wano has very, very high highs but very low lows. I would agree with that. Yes. I think Wano's highs are easily some of the greatest in the series, and they are just elevated even further if you're watching the anime like I did originally. They're just elevated even further by the complete 180 in art style, because like Wano is gorgeous. Every second on Wano is gorgeous. And then when we cut away from Wano, like in between the acts, and somehow the animation gets even better, what is there even to say? Wano is incredible when it's good, not so much when it's not great. Like I also think Luffy's imprisonment in Udon was a bit too long, and a few things we saw there were kind of like, I don't know. I would still say that it's S tier, though. I think I also put it S tier. I would say it's S tier.
If you haven't started Wano, and if you haven't read Wano, oh boy, do you have a good time ahead for you. Wano takes everything that is great about One Piece and puts it in like almost a self-contained arc. If you're not going to say that Wano is the best arc in One Piece, which...
To be fair, Wano is so ridiculously long that most anime and manga would never even be that long. And Wano is just one arc.
I don't know yet because it hasn't ended yet. But Wano is definitely, to me, the best kind of self-contained story arc. The only thing that can really challenge that, to me, is Marienford. Wano, to me, is like a self-contained story. It says a lot when Wano is an arc that requires 3 acts. It's a 3-act arc.
This is exactly what I mean, right? Wano has so much buildup that happens even outside of Wano, right? The whole reason why we arrived to Wano in the first place. I don't know, like thematically, I love so much about Wano, right? The fact that we see like Kaido's war machine take over the land, that's sort of like very, very Avatar vibes, right? Where we have this juxtaposition between like his factories and stuff like that, right? And then we have this lone tree with Ashura, I believe it was. I really like that vibe. And at the same time, like parts of Wano were just absolutely mesmerizing. And then we got to see so many of these sort of like one-off mythical stories, like we saw with the fox, with the guardian deity and stuff like that. That was so good. That was so good. That was so good. But at the same time, the raid is a bit too long, and the raid is also a bit hit and miss.
Maybe I'm completely biased because
this is recency bias definitely at play. We have to admit that.
Just recency bias, and I'm coming
This is why we listen to Garnt.
The hype of just having caught up with it. But my God, the payoff we're getting right now, unmatched. Holy man. Wano's the one arc I don't want to talk about too much because out of every arc so far, I feel like most people might be a bit iffy about Wano spoilers because some people watch the anime and some people read the manga. I'm going to be very vague about what the latest developments are. What I will say, it's proven to me once again that somehow 1,000 chapters in, Oda can still peak himself. And it's incredible.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I love the reveal. The one he's talking about right now. But I'm like the bigger thing about it is just so mixed for me.
It's absolutely incredible. I'm gonna keep it at that right now. But what I will say is that Wano is definitely peak One Piece. That is it. Oh, that felt good. I'm like Luffy after Gear 3, man. I need to like deflate as for a moment.
It needs to
that
be
is
a
me
small,
ranking every
small
arc
human.
in One Piece. Doesn't matter if we might prefer different arcs, or I might like one arc or one moment more than another moment. Maybe your favorite moment is slightly something different, but I don't care, man, because at the end of the day...
Exactly. Like, a lot of One Piece, and this is also what I kept stressing in my videos, like, a lot of my tier list isn't critical, right? Like, I was literally watching the series for the first time. This is how I feel about it. This is not what I think about it. Most of the time, it's what I feel about it. And that's what makes me watching these so much fun. Because obviously, I agree with Garnt on a lot of these things. And I think the Water 7 stuff, I mean, that's a universal belief, basically. I'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't like Water 7. So, you know.
If you're a One Piece fan, we can be friends. One Piece itself is S tier. Since catching up to Wano, I've been on like that One Piece hype, and I just needed to vent. Anyway, guys,
I hope he's reading
you enjoyed the
Egghead.
stream. This has been a very filled stream. If you're a fellow One Piece fan, don't worry, bro. We're Nakama. Hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I will see you all next time. Bye.
That was a great video. That was a great video. Let's look at the completed tier list real quick, and we'll give it one last critical evaluation. All right. So, let's go from the bottom. So, Syrup Village, I do think is a bit low. I wouldn't put it particularly high myself either, but I do think it's a bit too low. Also, Garnt actually knows how to do, unlike me, he actually knows how to do proper distributions. It's okay, never mind. No, never mind. I thought it was more so normal distribution, but it's not. It's like S tier is very packed, just like with me. Just like with me. Anyway, Syrup Village, I do think is a bit too low. Orange Town, Long Ring, Longland, 100% agree. Amazon Lily, yeah, I can sort of take it or leave it. Lil Garden, I do think is a bit too low. I would put it probably above. I don't even remember where it is in my list, but I think I would definitely put it above that. Above Punk Hazard, definitely above Whiskey Peak. Reverse Mountain, same thing. Reverse Mountain is goated. I love Reverse Mountain. Romance Dawn, hard to say. It's the introduction to everything. So, I mean, you know, it's kind of legendary, and it's also kind of not at the same time because it is the introduction, you know. Drum Island, criminal. Criminal. I'm not even going to say anything else. Drum Island should easily be like either A or S. There's no two ways about it. Punk Hazard, I think it should be lower. I think Punk Hazard only really has a few peak moments and that's it. Fishman Island, I'd probably move it a bit up. I don't know if I'd like put it in the next tier, because I think my tiers were a bit more granular. I love Fishman Island thematically, I think it's great. Return to Sabaody, easy S tier, no two ways about it. No one could even argue with that. Whiskey Peak, take it or leave it, probably move it down. Logtown, I think it's fine there, all things considered. I would probably move it above Thriller Bark, definitely. Maybe even above Jaya. Logtown is great. I love Logtown. Baratier, either up, definitely above Thriller Bark. Definitely above Thriller Bark. I'm not sure about the rest, though. Skypiea, I guess it's fine there. I think I still enjoyed Skypiea more than Thriller Bark. I think I enjoyed Skypiea more than Thriller Bark just because Thriller Bark was visually kind of boring, whereas Skypiea was... Well, I mean, to be fair, much of Skypiea was a literal jungle, so I can't really say that either. But some shots in Skypiea were breathtaking, whereas with Thriller Bark it kind of wasn't. So I guess there's that. Zoe, I think should be higher. I love Zoe. Zoe is one of the greatest arcs in One Piece. Jaya, take it or leave it. Jaya has incredible highs, but the bigger arc sort of sets up Skypiea, right? So, hard to say. Reverie, also hard to say because we just don't know much about it yet. Even now, we're beginning to find out stuff about it. Not entirely sure yet. Arlong Park, I think it's mostly fine there. I don't know what order these are in. I don't think he really paid much attention to the order, but it's definitely above Thriller Bark. Probably also above Post-War. Thriller Bark, probably down. Has very high highs. Also very, very, very low lows. Post-War, fine. Impel down, okay. Dressrosa, sort of agree with. Still hate the birdcage. Wano, great. Whole Cake Island, probably a bit too high. Alabasta, a bit too high for me. Water 7, legendary, no complaints. Enies Lobby, I would move down. Post Enies Lobby, I would probably also move down because I think I really enjoyed the big picture stuff. Post Enies Lobby was probably my favorite post arc, if that makes sense. I think so. Post Enies Lobby broke my brain. I love Post Enies Lobby. Post Enies Lobby is great. Sabaody, best arc in One Piece. Marineford, great. So for most of the stuff, we agree. There are some criminal things in this tier list, though. Some criminal ones. Drum Island, Return to Sabaody. Two criminal things. The rest, I don't care that much about. Return to Sabaody and Sabaody, though, two best arcs. Not even close. Not even a contest. So yeah, great video. Great video by Gigguk. I love watching these. It's been 2 hours, so I'm not sure whether we're going to do anything more today, but I want to watch more of these. I want to watch the Ludwig one. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube, but I know Ludwig put Drum Island in F tier. I want to hear his rationale, because that offends me on a spiritual level. I'm happy to... Oh, look at the big boy. Look at the big boy. I'm happy to say that we agreed on most things. Most things. Garnt is obviously a very reputable person in AniTube. I guess I'll also call it a day, and then we'll be back sometime soon TM. Maybe with more tier lists. I didn't expect to be watching Garnt's tier list for an hour and a half. I will admit that. Oh my god. The video is only 37 minutes. I spent like almost 2 hours watching it. Oh god. Oh god.